Rogers TV.
Welcome to Great Healthy Life at Home. I'm one of your hosts, Rhonda Brown, with the delectable Charlie Brown. And good morning, Mary Jane.
Oh, good morning, Rhonda. And it's so great to see Charlie Brown all camera ready this morning. He was just sitting up waiting for us to get started.
Yes, you know what? We were just saying that, for our mental well-being in this house, we like to watch movies and curl up on this couch. And this guy likes to sit right between Emerson and I, and we are just starting a James Bond marathon. There's a new movie out, and I said to Emerson, let's watch all the episodes or all of the versions with Daniel Craig from start to finish, because there's a bit of a storyline with that guy. And Mr. Charlie sits up with us and snuggles. And I said to Emerson last night, if dogs live on love, this guy's going to live forever, because he just sucks it up. Whatever we want to give, he takes. And it's such a special relationship. And I think that, slowing things down at this time of the year is so important. Like we were saying, I've got a list of things to do, and life gets so crazy busy sometimes. All the time, who's kidding who, but this time especially for us homemaker moms and people who, as we said, tradition makers and memory keepers and all of that stuff. We are so busy and want everything to be perfect. But sitting back and relaxing and watching a movie with Emerson and Charlie are one of my favorite things. And it's just let's just enjoy each other's company.
Well, I think it's really important when we talk about, particularly at this time of year, acts of kindness, that we actually need to be kind to ourselves as well as to others. And one of the ways of being kind to ourselves is kind of separating what we want things to look like and what the actual needs are in order to get ready for our holiday season. And every Martha Stewart thing I tried never worked. So she's off my list. Let's just stick to the basics and just do what needs to be done.
Yeah, that's, I think that is a fantastic policy, and really looking forward to the holidays this year. Just spending time with my family and, a few special things. It's a nice way to do it. Walk along the Festival of Northern Lights, and, some midnight walks are always fun with this guy.
Well, we did talk off camera about all the little dust bunnies that are starting to creep around. And we thought that instead of letting the dust bunnies get to us, we'll just name them and include them in the family and just leave it at that and give ourselves a break.
I think that's a fabulous idea. I think maybe that'll be one of our things that we do, is pick out some names.
Well, we want our viewers to sit back, relax, and enjoy the season as well, and just do what is comfortable for them. But we do have a couple of information updates in our community as well, and that is Safe and Sound, which is a real anchor in our community and does such a great job working with our community members. They've started a tailgate soup kitchen, and the location is the downtown Tim Hortons, and it's every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 5, and there's going to be warm, hot food and warm clothes as supplies are available. And if folks feel that they need to comfort themselves, to drop down on Sunday afternoons from 2 to 5. And then, of course, coming up as our community is all starting to rev up for it now, is the Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada 2022 celebrations. And there's many events that are going on, so tune in and stay up to date with all of them.
Yes,
However,
you know what? If we're stuck in Owen Sound over the winter holidays and you typically are somebody who goes south, whatever version of that you have, this is going to be a fantastic reason to be in Owen Sound and enjoy it, because we sure do enjoy our hockey. And even if you don't enjoy hockey, it's events that we can go to and look forward to, which I am so excited about for Owen Sound.
well, one of the things that surprised me, because I think of hockey just in the sports line, but this is the music of hockey. Coming up at the Roxy for $25, Wednesday, January the 26th at 8 p.m. So even if you're not a diehard hockey fan, although I'm sure there's a few in Owen Sound, but we have a collective audience for music, and music is another mainstay in our community. So there's something for everyone.
Yeah, most definitely. It's going to be a fun time around here, that's for sure. Looking forward to all the events they've got lined up for that.
Well, you and I are going to be well immersed in that coming in January.
Should be a good time. And yeah, I would think, who knows who you're going to see playing hockey down at Harrison Park if we have some ice on the rink. Wouldn't that be cool?
Well, yes, and I haven't heard when the rink is going to be open yet, but that is a favorite gathering spot. Hockey one day, public skating the next day, even in odd in whatever the system they set up. It's a great outdoor activity for families and especially for kids. And once again, those spontaneous hockey games.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty amazing spot down there at Harrison Park. Well, we got a very I'm thankful for the show that we had today. We've got Peace Medal recipients from the Family Y here in Owen Sound, and we are looking forward to that. And we're going to be back after these commercials with Charlie, Mary Jane, and I. So stay right there.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
It was my daughter's birthday. She was blowing out the candles on our cake when we heard coming from the TV. So we stopped and listened, and it helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of my daughter's birthday, because now she gets to keep having them.
Focus better.
Partner better.
Sleep better.
Breathe better.
Love better. Work better. Friend better. Unwind better.
Everything gets better when you get active.
Welcome back to Grey County Life at Home. And today our special guests are going to be talking about the YMCA Peace Medal. This is a really important award that is given in every year through the YMCA's, not only across Canada, but the Family Y here in Owen Sound. And it has a tremendous impact on our community. And our special guests today are Cortney O'Donoghue, and she is the communications lead for the YMCA, and Michael McLuhan, who is a Peace Medal committee member who is on the committee to choose the recipients. So welcome both, and we appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today, because this is a really important message to give to our viewers. So Cortney, can you just lead us in with a little bit about the Y's role in the Peace Medal?
Yeah, so the Peace Medal is awarded during Peace Week. And so YMCA Peace Week takes place every year in November. And its intention is really to celebrate the presence of peace in our local community and globally. So like you said, YMCAs across Canada celebrate Peace Week. And a big highlight of that is awarding the Peace Medal, which we've been doing here in Owen Sound for many years. But the YMCA Peace Medal was actually developed in 1987 by a group of volunteers and staff who made up an international committee at the YMCA in Fredericton. So that tradition has been carried on for many years now, and especially within Owen Sound. So the Peace Medal, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's incredible. Since 1987. So we've had lots of recipients, I guess, in this area too.
We have, yeah, we've had quite a few. So like you said, we typically put out a call to the community to submit nominations in September or October each year. And then those nominations go to our Peace Committee, which is made up of a few members of the public, like Michael, as well as some of our board members. So we look at a criteria that is based on our PEACE acronym, which is participation, empathy, advocacy, community, and empowerment. So based on that, we choose who we feel, embodies our PEACE acronym and is really pushing our community forward in a peaceful way.
Oh, that is a great summary. Thank you. Now, Michael, you've been on the committee for a number of years. And when I was doing my research, I noticed that the recipients of the Peace Medal have a wide, eclectic history and background about what their initiatives were.
Certainly is the case, Mary Jane. And, going back to the first one that was awarded in 1987 to Michelle Lavin and Don Wilkinson, that was for getting the city to adopt no nukes policy for Owen Sound, which might seem small, but as you know, in this community, that would have been a very big move. Right up to our last recipient last year, who was Jill Lyman, who organized perhaps the biggest march Owen Sound has seen for the Black Lives Matter movement. So, what we look for when we're on the committee and receiving these applications is we look for a far-reaching impact that penetrates into Grey Bruce society as a whole. So it's not just a single individual and their work with another single individual, of which there are so many, of course, that we could endlessly award these things, but we look for the highest impact and the farthest reaching. And this year's recipients, actually, it's very unusual for us to have two recipients in a year, although it's happened a couple of times before. But they were so worthy that we thought that we really would be doing a disservice to the recipient if we had only had one by not having the other. And one of those recipients, the impact again is with the Black Lives Matter movement and Black racism, and the second one, of course, with reconciliation. So, these are things that are super important and impact the community dramatically. And it's really changed. I only moved up here in 1986. It's really changed the face of the community and the way in which we see ourselves. The list of recipients is amazing. As you said, it's very eclectic and it's very wide-reaching, from LGBTQ rights to peace activism. But it's people who walk the talk and live the life of peace. So that's why it's so important. The other beautiful thing about the medallion is it does attract significant media attention and brings to light the work that a lot of these people are doing. They don't seek publicity. So to have the publicity for their efforts is really great and fantastic. And I would also add, while I'm at it, this year's recipients too, both of the recipients have done this work for years and years in our area. And so even though they're being recognized for their current efforts, there are many things they have done over the past 10 years or thereabouts in the Owen Sound and Grey Bruce area that would have also been very, very viable recipients for the medallion. So it's, in that way, I look at it as being sort of a Nobel Peace Prize kind of thing, because it awards your work from years past as well as the effort that you're doing now. All of these things impact in the judgment or in the adjudication of the entries.
Michael, do you feel that when we are able to publicize this, it becomes a public event and people become more aware of the time, the effort, and the folks involved and fulfilling these initiatives and bringing them to the attention of the community? Do you feel that it inspires others to actually, like that ripple effect, that inspires others to say, this is a need in our community and let's get a grassroots little group going and work on a particular project?
Absolutely. And last year's recipient, Jill Lyman, is a very good example of that. She's a first-year university student last year. She's in her second year, I think now, or third. And she just was so moved by what was happening around this country and in the States that she wanted to make sure that this was brought to the fore. And she single-handedly organized a march that was 1,000 people. Now, in a city of 20,000 or 25,000, in a county area that's not much bigger, it's really astounding to get that kind of participation. And that's one young person that did that. So certainly all of these people, none of them are being paid for their efforts. All of them are doing this as a volunteer thing from their conscience, and they become paragons of what we should be aspiring to in the community in our daily work.
Well, I think what was so inspiring about Jillian is her youth. And I think that if we see more of our youth taking on initiatives, and I understand that the YMCA really plants those seeds in our youth anyway, because the Y does such a great job in our community on a broad range of topics, but or initiatives in our community. But to see our youth becoming so embedded and so engaged in some of these issues.
It's absolutely essential, and especially with, although it might not be considered a literal peace initiative, the fight for the climate crisis and trying to find resolution for that impacts every area of society. And it's cross-generational. So much of what is done is, that comes to our attention, is done by people that are middle-aged or older. So you're right, when we have a youthful person like Jillian take on that mantle and bring such a dramatic result, it can make you proud, that's for sure. And I also want to add that these people aren't affiliated with the Y. This is not a thing the Y is necessarily fostering, but through the profile that the medallion has, it brings it to greater attention. So the Y isn't rewarding their own. I'm not putting the Y down by any means, but the Y is recognizing community efforts to make life in a community more peaceful, more tolerant, and more loving, and really, that's the case.
Well, we certainly need that. We need that
Yes.
aspect of kindness all year round. And we do have, special days in our community, the random act of kindness and things like that. But I think it's fostering those seeds so that we carry it on throughout the year and throughout the generations. But my comment about the why, because I have been connected with the Y many years ago. So I have great affection and great support for the YMCA because it's dedicated to building healthy communities. And the Peace Medal is just a reflection of that one area that they're doing in terms of building a healthy community by highlighting what our community members are doing behind the scenes. And you're right, they're not connected to the Y. And I understand that when people send in their submissions, that the nominations or the people being nominated for their initiatives cannot be connected to the Y.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. The one criteria that really stands out for me is that they're not paid for their work. There are a great many people doing incredible work in making peace and building peace in the community, but it's their job. And that's not to put down what they do, but they have a definite motivation to get out of bed every morning and go out and do stuff and get the kids off to school, etc. These are people that are doing it from their own heartfelt position that are not rewarded in any other way. So this medallion brings a recognition that is really generally, almost always, really welcomed. And they are not nominating themselves. We must add that they are nominated by other members of the community. And so that's a critical thing to point out as well.
I
Yeah,
think,
as part of our,
recognizing,
sorry,
I was just going to say, recognizing passion and their faith and belief in something that just gets them out of bed, and it's something that they feel so strongly about, they have to do something, and that should be honored.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Cortney, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to add to Michael's point, part of our criteria for nominating an individual or a group is that they have no special resources, status, wealth, or position. So to his point, it's people that really are doing this from their heart, and they're not doing it because, you know, they have any special means or status or any persuasion. They're just doing it out of passion and to really challenge and inspire other people.
So how many applications or nominations do you actually receive in a year?
Oh, it can be anywhere from as few as 4 or 5 to 10 or 12. It's an amazing experience going through it. It's one of the most rewarding things to sit in that room, or Zoom lately, and discuss with others that are equally concerned about it, which submission has the greatest merit. It's very difficult to do, but it's very heartening and it's very joyful. I also want to recognize that it's not just individuals. Several groups have won in the past. And one of the ones, I guess it was 2018, there was a group of individuals from Nea-Shiniming who set off across Canada to walk from coast to coast to bring to mind the predicament of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. And each day on Facebook, they put a video out honoring one missing person, and they would walk that day for them. And literally, they so did not expect to get nominated. It was really amazing. And literally the wheels were coming off their RV when they were in northern Saskatchewan, I think, and heading up to the Yukon when they received word they got the medallion. It's a wonderful thing.
What an initiative. I mean, to honor all the murdered and missing Indigenous women. I mean, that is a great tribute. Wow.
to bring awareness. And I think that's part of what the Peace Medal does as well. Like we've said, that it does bring so many eyes onto whatever cause they've been nominated behind, or their passion. You know, lots of people aren't on Facebook. I mean, I don't know very many, but yeah, lots of people aren't aware of the things and the initiatives that have been led in our community by our own community members. It is really amazing, and I think very inspiring for our local youth, and not just our youth. I mean, we're not going to just lump that, but I think everybody to be inspired by what other people are finding their passion and bringing a voice to out there.
Indeed, and it really depends on how we define youth. You know, the people that were partaking in the initiative I just mentioned from Nea-Shiniming, they were in their very early 20s. So I think we could definitely recognize them as being youthful up to their mid 30s, which from my perspective is also quite youthful.
Well, I don't know about you, Michael, but for me, everyone under the age of 65 is still a kid.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm lying. I'm over 65 now.
Changing.
Yeah. Are we introducing our next guests, Mary Jane?
Well, they are really coming on because they are the recipients of the Peace Medal, and that's Susan Staves and Ali Boltman. And after our break, then we will bring them on and we'll be talking about their initiative. Our whole show today is really about the Peace Medal and its importance in our community and how it impacts with that ripple effect in our community going forward.
It's amazing. So if people want to nominate somebody next year, Michael, what's the process? How do they go about that?
Well, it's a very wonderful thing, actually. If you stay in touch with Cortney here at the Y, and you're not on Facebook, which is hard to imagine, then you will be able to get the application form. The application form generally becomes available sometime in September. The deadline is generally somewhere near the end of October, and Peace Week is generally midway through November. So that's the general timeline. However, it's never too early to start thinking about who is this worthy recipient in our community that as yet is unrecognized and who would benefit from that. It's more than a pat on the back.
Absolutely, is it ever? Well, thank you so much for clarifying that for us, because I think lots of our viewers will be thinking about, what's happening in our community. But we're going to be back after these messages with more Peace Medal.
Smudging is a very important part in our life as we're all learning to walk the good way. When we smudge, we use the sacred medicine. The white sage, the sweetgrass, the tobacco, and the cedar. It cleanses negative energy and replaces it by a positive energy. When I smudge, I cleanse my end and my eagle feather and start cleansing my breath to have better words. I will smudge my eyes so I could see the better things offered to me. I will smudge my ears to hear the good thing that people have to say. I will smudge my hair to have good thinking from my head. I will bring the smudge to my feet so I could walk in respect with our Mother, the Earth. Smudging is the way we give our prayers to connect our spirit to the Creator. We express gratitude for the gift of life, the learning, and growth.
Kids, ho, ho, ho. Join us here for 6 nights in December for Talk to Santa, right here on Rogers TV. Ho, ho, ho. Give us a call and we'll chat.
Welcome back to Great County Life at Home. Today, we've been talking all about the Peace Medal that is awarded through the YMCA across Canada and our own local YMCA. And we've had the pleasure of speaking with Cortney O'Donoghue, who is a communications lead, and Michael McLuhan, who is the committee member and selection committee for the Peace Medal. And now we are welcoming Susan Staves and Ali Boltman, who are both recipients of their initiatives for the Peace Medal. And this is the first time, I believe, that you've actually selected 2 recipients for the medal, simply because both initiatives have had such a great impact on our community. So welcome, Susan, and welcome, Ali. And this portion of the show, we would really like to talk specifically about your initiative and how it has, first of all, why you became involved and how it has grown over these years into a product that now impacts our community. So, Susan, would you like to start about the, I'm hoping I'm catching this name correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the Gitche Nema-Wickwaganon Reconciliation Garden Project.
Yes, that's very good. You did a great job. So about in 2010, we joined as a committee, and we have had many supporting individuals and organizations, and we've worked with the City of Owen Sound and Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers in our region. And we've been using their wisdom and cultural knowledge to develop a plan of a garden, a healing garden at now Nawash Park. And it was historically the location of the original Nawash village, home of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. So, and we're proud to acknowledge and celebrate the history and the culture of First Nations and Métis people in the Grey Bruce area. So would you like me to tell you who is on our committee?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the chair of the committee, and I'm a member of Chippewas of Nawash. And we have Elder Shirley John, who's a knowledge keeper from Saugeen. Colleen Purdon, you might know her, One World Festival and former municipal councillor. Donna Elliott, she's a scholarship chair of the CFUW Owen Sound. Greg Najwan, a knowledge keeper and former chief of the Chippewas of Nawash. Gary Kenny from Rivercroft Writing and Editing Services. Thomas Dean, landscape designer and project manager. Michael Craig, writer and editor. Reverend Jordan Murray from St. George's Church in Owen Sound, and Mark Plummer, who is retired. So that's the list of our committee. So what else would you like to know?
Well, I think that if you talk a little bit about the gardens, because not only has it brought the, as was described, the invisible to the visible, and is now becoming a really place of healing within our community. As you
yes.
talk about the gardens.
Yes, the garden encourages conversations about residential school legacy and intergenerational impacts that are felt today because of that, and impacts on racism and discrimination as well. Intergenerational trauma is still present today, because of the residential schools, the 60 scoop, and the impact of settlers. And learning must happen so change can happen. So, reconciliation means to restore a relationship. We're working together with mutual respect to bring awareness of the past harms and acknowledgement to bring action to change the past behaviors. So this is the focus of the garden. Our mission statement is to acknowledge our First Peoples present in the past, present, and future on their traditional territory, to reclaim and restore place, culture, ecology, and wellness, to educate all nations about the legacy of residential school and help build right relationships through reconciliation and understanding, to honor and support the history, culture, and spiritual teachings of the Anishinaabe people, understanding what we do today is for our future generations. Our children are our future, and we must give them a strong foundation. Our hope is that all nations will honor the culture and spiritual teachings. What we do today is for our future generations. So that is our focus.
Oh, thank you, Susan,
You're welcome.
for explaining all of that. And once again, we notice that it's a group effort. There's a lot of people with boots on the ground who are working to put this forward and put this together. But the Healing Gardens, I think, is really important because it's inclusive for the entire community. It's honoring the Indigenous heritage, but it's also open to anyone who feels that they need to go there for a time of reflection, a sense of peace, a sense of calmness, and to acknowledge the past and build a better future going forward. So it has such a significant impact. And my visual that I keep going back to about the gardens is the number of shoes, little children's shoes. And I think that was such a visual impact that we had on our community, where all of us felt that gut response, that need to heal.
You're correct. It was very profound, and it was a community response. It just happened, and we did put the call out after, and it was over 215 pairs of shoes, which we left up for the duration of, I think it was seven days. And so it was profound for the community that came together and helped bring awareness to, for healing. This was, quite profound.
Oh, thank you, Susan. We want to give Allie some time here as well, because Allie has been working on this project, I think, for about 10 years now.
Oh, not quite that long, but some days it felt like it.
The Potter's Field Monument, and you were part of the steering committee, but you've had a long attachment to the cemetery and the Potter's Field.
Well, how long do I have, Mary Jane? I just want to make sure I can try to confine my comments.
Rhonda, how much time do we have?
6 or 7 minutes, Allie.
Okay. I guess then before I talk about Potter's Field, I just want to put in 30 seconds towards Susan's project. I think it's fantastic that both of us got this award this year. Susan and I have been working together pretty much almost immediately upon my arrival here in Grey County close to 20 years ago, because we've both worked with the Grey County Historical Society and have both nurtured a love for history and historical culture, for a long, long time. So it really felt quite fitting when the two of us were up there that day accepting.
It was.
It was amazing. Susan has always felt like my sister in history, and when I moved up here and knew next to no one, she was literally one of the first people I met. And when you see in someone else the same passion that you have for something specific, it's been a bonding experience. So for us, almost 20 years later, to share that that moment is really special. And I also want to say that what you've done is spectacular. You didn't even get to talk about the new, is it the grandmother fish? Is that the
sturgeon?
The sturgeon. The reconciliation gardens are spectacular, and for a resource like what we know is, Kelso Beach, Kelso Park, to really be something completely other than what we know it as contemporary people who are living with a site that just seems like a park. I'm so grateful to Susan and her team for bringing back the previous history, the much more long-standing history of that cultural resource, and making it important. It's if you don't know where you live and where you walk and why things turned into what they transformed into over the years, you're not living to your fullest extent, and you're not taking the time to tap into your own resources in your community. So thank you, Susan, and your team for what you did.
Great.
And what you're going to continue to do with that great space.
And that comment, Ali, that's what I was thinking, sitting here thinking, gee whiz, I was born and raised in Owen Sound. Right. And I am so thankful that these things are being raised around us, and the issues and the locations of things. And it is an amazing learning experience for sure.
And, on that note, my love of cemeteries, which I've had since I was a very, very young girl, at the same site, just a little bit further north, of course, is the original cemetery or graveyard for the Nawash community, which is sort of inappropriately named the Mary Miller Park. As much as Mary Miller offered incredible contributions to Owen Sound's history, perhaps that park isn't exactly named for what it could be. But this same committee, of course, has also done work on that space to try to identify it for what it is, so that people no longer park their cars there to watch the fireworks and gather and have picnics without knowing what it is that they're sitting on top of. So since we're moving on to the subject of cemeteries, I'd like to put that out there too. In terms of our project, I've had a long-standing love for cemeteries, having first discovered an abandoned one that was supposed to be maintained by the city of Toronto when I was 15 years old, and wrote off all sorts of fire and brimstone letters to the council to get them to clean it back up and maintain it, and have traveled extensively and always made cemeteries a part of my focus wherever I go. I found out about the Potter's Field plot, which is also known as the indigent lot for people of few means, of lesser means, through an article that Terry Jackson, another local historian and researcher, wrote. I believe it was in the Terminus publication, which is the Black History publication that comes out of Grey Roots every spring. And when I was asked to lead 2 different cemetery tours in 2018, I think it was, I ended both of those tours at Potter's Field, and I printed out a list of everybody buried in the indigent plot. And I asked people to randomly pick names and read off any name that they felt like on the list of who was buried in the indigent plot. Now, you must know the indigent plot is shaped a bit like a piece of pizza. It's triangular, it's oddly shaped. It ends at the Nine Bends Ravine kind of overlook. And in this tiny little plot of land where you might normally find maybe 100 people buried in a space that big, there are up to 1,300 people buried in this space. And there are 2 markers, 2 3-dimensional markers, another 2 flat ones to represent all of those people. This lot was meant for people who couldn't afford a lot in the regular cemetery and who couldn't necessarily afford a stone, or people who were culturally believing that they weren't deserving of having a stone because their people were poor and couldn't afford to have the things that other people have. And when you ask why people were poor on that level, many of the people buried in the indigent lot come from Owen Sound's historic Black community. They are themselves escaped slaves or former slaves or their descendants. And when you talk about systemic racism and what that does, one of the most obvious factors is poverty. So you're talking also a lot of infants, stillborns, young women that died in childbirth, a lot of seniors who had no means. Often if your husband went before you, you had what you had. And these were people, seniors, octogenarians, nonagenarians, that were literally going to the Owen Sound jail because they could have a place to sleep and a meal, who had spent their entire lives contributing to Owen Sound and then ended up in a potter's grave, completely unknown. So when I had everyone read the names at the second tour, a couple that had attended that tour stepped up afterwards and said, this isn't right, that these people deserve the same dignity as everybody else. For a time, those people were anonymous, but now they are comfortable with their names being known. So that is John and Shirley Rayburn from Georgian Bluffs, the most marvelous couple, the most marvelous people. And they worked alongside of myself, as well as a team of people that we advised, which was pretty vast, including Naomi Norquay, Terry Jackson, Petal Furness, Bonita Johnston de Mateus. There was a whole group of people that I constantly went to get input, as well as putting out a survey to the whole city of Owen Sound. And I think we got close to 200 responses, which, not to toot our own horn or anything, but go and ask the city of Owen Sound when they put out surveys, how many people contribute to those things, and it's a tiny little number. So we got lots and lots of people telling us what they wanted to see in a monument. And ultimately, we worked with Sanderson Monuments and Steve Payton, who is now retired from Sanderson, to come up with a monument design. And we incorporated the window, which is the same window that you will find at the Black History Cairn at Harrison Park, and which came from the BME church windows, the first Black church here in Owen Sound, to try to make a bit of an homage to the fact that likely over half of the people buried there at Potter's Field come from our historic Black community. And then we designed this monument that had the point, and the point initially was facing the wrong direction, so we turned it around so it would face north to imply north is freedom. And Anne Finley Stewart jumped in at the end and made a suggestion about the wording, so that we started off with, infants, children, women, men, because it's always men, women, children. When you look at the way things are worded in the world, it's a patriarchal world that we're still living in. So we made that little shift, and ultimately we worked towards something that would bring back a little bit of dignity and sort of fix the scales a little bit in terms of social justice, where everybody will be acknowledged.
Wow.
Wow, that is amazing. And I love the link. I love the links between the cairn down at Harrison Park and the monument. It just brings a continuity of recognition and acknowledgement.
Absolutely.
Well, it was an amazing project to work on, and I agree. We really tried to have some of that continuity. I guess what I want to say too, though, is that so often we as citizens look to the city to get this work done, and that makes sense. They have a tax base, they collect from us, and we expect them to do things with our money that will be important and will be in line with documents. But this was a private donor, and it made all the difference in terms of having the freedom to ultimately say, we're going to do what we're going to do. But we also said it's important to get the input of the people around us.
Hi, I'm Gavin Bryant, centerman with the Owen Sound Attack. Catch great OHL action on Rogers TV as we bring you Owen Sound Attack games live, both home and away.
At St. John Ambulance, we're all about community. We teach life-saving skills and provide community support through our volunteer services. All St. John Ambulance product sales and training registrations support these important services. Volunteer, donate, or enroll in a program today so we can continue to have an impact on our community. Visit sja.ca to learn more. At St. John Ambulance, we do more than save lives, we change lives.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Frequency Podcast Network, in association with City News, presents The Big Story. Listen to this podcast and many more at citynews.ca or wherever you listen to podcasts. City News, everywhere.
think Shirley, I'm going to have to cover his eyes, Renee, because I got to say, he's been rather busy in my backyard lately with little creatures just like this guy. Oh my goodness. Who is this creature?
Well, we are calling him Jumbo. And Jumbo came to the animal shelter as a found rabbit. He was a stray. And as you can tell, he is definitely not a wild rabbit. He is most certainly a giant domestic. Typically with these guys, we see them sold for the purpose of meat, I guess we could say. They're generally food. They are bred to be giant in size, often purchased, let's just say, at maybe the Katy market or at a farmer's market with intention to be food, which is a really sad story for Mr. Jumbo. And his story gets sadder as we speculate either he escaped from an enclosure and freed himself into the outside world, which is actually not so terrible, or unfortunately somebody has decided that their beloved pet got too big and put him outside. So in either case, it's not the ideal situation for Jumbo, but the good news is he's in a safe spot now. Now, I guess if anybody is watching and is missing a giant pet rabbit, they can certainly give us a call because maybe he got lost. The odds of that are small, but it's not impossible. Now, Jumbo, being a jumbo rabbit, I'm going to put him at about 20, 25 pounds. He is really quite heavy in my arms here. Would be best suited as a house rabbit. And when I say house rabbit, I mean not a caged pet, but maybe he'd like his own bedroom because he is really big. Here at the shelter, we have him. It's true. Here at the shelter, we have him in a rabbit enclosure, but it's a typical rabbit enclosure, and he's really quite big for it. So he will need either his own special designer cage, or his own bedroom. We are working on litter training him, and he is doing quite well with that. And I should mention that it is not our intention to adopt Jumbo back out to the food trade. Right, buddy? You're gonna be a house pet, no longer somebody's dinner. It's the unfortunate that he bred so large to have that purpose. The good news is he's going to be just fine as a house pet. As you can see, he's quite content for the most part to sit here. He's in a high stress situation, and he's quite okay with being held, which is really nice, although he's really heavy. We recommend often rabbits to people who would like a cat, who maybe have a cat allergy. And the reason for that is that they have a different hair and a different dander. And they do a lot of the same things that cats do. They'll sit on your lap. They'll be carried around. They can be litter trained. And I'd love to see Jumbo be adopted to a home where somebody maybe is looking for that kind of a companion, because quite honestly, that's what he's big enough to do. He's almost big enough to be a dog. In saying that,
I think he's bigger, Renee. I think he's bigger than my mother's dogs, which he does look big. And I love the little beauty mark he's got on his cheek there.
Yeah.
I think it's a beauty mark.
It is a beauty mark, right? It's your freckle. It's your freckle.
Are very striking, just so handsome, with the very dark eyes and the dark ears.
He is, and he would be a term commitment than say a hamster would be if you have a child looking for a pet. Maybe your child is committed enough to have your own little pocket pet, or maybe more like a cat, but at the same time has an allergy. This would be a good solution. He is a mature rabbit. We're going to guess that he's about 1 year to 2 years of age. I mean, it could be totally wrong with that because rabbits are one of those things, their teeth grow all the time and we never really know. But in saying that, the life expectancy of a rabbit is about 8 to 10 years. And that is, of course, if they are in a domestic situation. So he is not quite a long commitment like a cat might be because they sometimes live 20 years, but definitely in all other ways, it's longer than, let's say, a mouse or a hamster would be. I do always recommend rabbits for older homes. They're great for seniors. I like them because, as you can see, they'll sit with you. Additionally, they're a little easier to maintain. And this is going to sound really weird, which, I mean, you've heard me say weird things before. Their poop smells better. Because they are, it's true. Cat poo smells bad and rabbit poo not so much. They're vegetarian, they eat only fruits and vegetables, and their poop is quite easier to clean up. It's little tiny balls of poo as opposed to squishy cat poo. I know that's way more information than TV needed, but the reality is, I know, but if you were perhaps a person who had some difficulty in getting those areas cleaned on your own, maybe stooping is a challenge or bending, the rabbit is a little easier. If you miss a couple in the corner, it's not going to smell. I mean, odd to say that, but it's important. And it's one of the great things about a rabbit. They're a little less smelly. Now, Jumbo is a male rabbit. He is not neutered, so that is maybe going to make him smell a tiny little bit more, but it is not like a cat or like a small pocket animal. They're actually, if he was a little trained house rabbit, he'd be a wonderful addition to really any home. In saying that, he is good with dogs and cats and small children. I always say with rabbits or any of these pocket pets, just because they are good with dogs and cats doesn't mean that your dog or cat will be. And that is certainly something to keep in mind. If you have him wandering around the house with your dog, as you mentioned with Charlie, it could be a whole lot of excitement you don't need, right?
Yes.
Quickly, Renee, because we're coming down to the 1 minute mark, but we're also going into the holiday season and we're going to be having guests coming over or grandchildren and things like that, and really busy household. Is this a good time of year to introduce a new pet into a house full of guests?
Yeah, we don't recommend that. What we suggest instead is that you offer things like gift certificates and collect later when the house is a little quieter and a little less chaos. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't. If it means that you're going to be home and that maybe your schedule's a little better over the holidays, we just recommend that you talk to us about precautions you can take to make it safe. We recommend things like crate training for dogs or keeping your cats in an area of the house where they can be a little isolated. It reduces stress for everybody, humans included, to be able to have us all separated sometimes, especially over the holidays. Jumbo's sleep. Whoop.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks, Renee, for coming on and bringing Jumbo. What a...
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Your mouth can do a lot of amazing things. And your mouth can save a life.
Hi, I'm Tom Wong. I'm just one of close to 1,000 Canadians in search of a stem cell match. We need your help.
A simple swab is all you need to register on the National Stem Cell Database. You could be the one to save a life. Find the hero in you.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another